Good morning, everyone. My name is Jeff Overmars, and I work with the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Under Construction, Accessible Navigation Assistance for Halifax and Beyond, part of our Human Rights Week series of events. Since 2023, communities throughout the province have been invited to join in this week-long celebration of human rights from December 3rd to the 10th. Presented by the Human Rights Commission in partnership with human rights champions, community-based organizations, and government, the week's events highlight the foundational role human rights play in protecting each person's right to live free from discrimination and the powerful force of a collective effort. Blake Hunsley of reachAbility will host today's session and be joined by app developer Avery Cote to discuss progress in the development of Trek.iQ. In Avery's words, Trek.iQ is an accessibility intelligence platform designed to make cities and spaces easier to navigate for everyone. They will share how they are using data to uncover barriers, benchmark accessibility, and help organizations create more inclusive, equitable urban experiences. At Trek.iQ, accessibility isn't a feature, it's the foundation of everything they build. Blake and Avery will be joined by local residents who identify as living with a disability and who participated in Trek.iQ's first future user focus group on November 20th of this year to discuss the app, existing roadblocks to accessible navigation in Halifax, and how technology can be harnessed to overcome these roadblocks. Before I pass the mic over to Blake, I'd like to share that with deep respect for the Mi'kmaq people, the Commission acknowledges that we are located in Chibuktuk, on the unceded ancestral territory of Mi'kma'ki. This land is covered by the sacred peace and friendship treaties signed with the British Crown in the early 1700s. We honor the profound historic and spiritual connections of the Mi'kmaq people to this land, where their ancestors' legacy endures. As treaty people, we are bound by the promises made in these treaties, guiding us in mutual respect and reconciliation. We commit to working together in harmony with respect for the Mi'kmaq people, their culture, and their rights. I want to thank Blake and others for making time to host this discussion today, and to everybody that's registered and attended events already during Nova Scotia Human Rights Week. There are several more sessions occurring today, tomorrow, and the Human Rights Week will culminate with the presentation of the Nova Scotia Human Rights Awards on Wednesday, December the 10th, International Human Rights Day, at the Paul O'Regan Hall in the Central Branch, Halifax Central Libraries. Folks can attend in person. We would love to see you there. And you can also tune in online for that live stream. Again, thanks to Blake, and over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you very much for hosting this week and for having reachability back for the second year in a row. We are thrilled to be here and to take part in between catching a lot of really cool content online that you've been up to for this week. So thank you for all of that. Hi to everyone who doesn't know me. My name is Blake Hunsley. I am the head of special projects here at reachability. For those of you who may not be able to see me, I'll give you a brief description. I am a short, middle-aged man with, let's say, graying short hair and green glasses. And I was forced to add on to this that my mom thinks I'm handsome. So we're going to add that on there as well. My pronouns are he, him. We're going to be talking with some great guests today. Reachability's position in this sort of project was something we love doing, which is just connecting experts with experts. So we have future end users, KJ and Tara, giving us their firsthand expertise and lived experience. And then we have Avery Cote, who is the app developer. I'll get these fine folks to introduce themselves momentarily. As well as Evan Dobby, my colleague here at reachability, who very kindly stepped in for me to host and facilitate the focus group with Avery when I was called to Ontario at the very last minute. So I will be learning about some of this project with the people tuning in today. I'm very excited about that. I'm going to pass to Avery first. Avery, if you could give us a brief introduction to yourself, and then we'll pass to KJ, and then Tara, and then Evan after that, if that makes sense for everybody. I'll remind anyone watching as well that I am keeping an eye on the Q&A questions and answers tab as well. So if you have something you'd like to contribute or a question you'd like to ask, please just throw it in there, and I will be more than happy to call out the panel's attention to that. Avery, I'll pass it over to you.
Thanks, Blake. Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to be here during Nova Scotian Human Rights Week on this snowy Monday morning. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. My name's Avery Cote, and I'm the founder and CEO of Trek.iQ. And we'll get into that throughout the panel. For those who can't see me, I'm a short, younger-ish male with blonde hair. And just like Blake, my mom thinks I'm pretty handsome too. So I'll flip it over to I think it was Tara or KJ.
Let's go to KJ and then we'll go to Tara just to keep everything in line. KJ, hi, happy you could join us.
Hi there, my name's KJ Dow. My pronouns are they, them. And I'm not sure if my camera is on or if people can see me, but I am a um, young white trans male with short brown hair, brown eyes, and wearing a blue t-shirt.
Thank you, KJ. Just as a quick heads up, your camera is off as well.
Oh, okay.
And I'll pass to Tara if that's okay.
Hi, yeah, my pronouns are she, her. I'm a white 40-year-old woman, because I don't know where 40 fits in terms of youngish or middle age or what have you. Yeah. And yeah, I think, I'm also wearing sunglasses because I have acute light sensitivity, so I'll probably take them on and off during the thing, depending on how I'm feeling. So just that's why.
Great, and we'll pass over to Evan.
Hi, my name is Evan Darby. I'm also with reachAbility. I work on special projects with Blake. My pronouns are he, him. I am a tallish, white middle-aged man with short, salt and pepper hair and beard, and I'm wearing a red, white, and black check shirt.
Thank you, Evan. Evan's bringing the height to the panel today. I appreciate that. All right. Avery, for the life of me, I can't remember how we crossed paths to start this whole project, but we did. We were really intrigued here at reachAbility by what you were working on. To be honest, primarily because we hear from so many of our clients and friends, particularly low and no vision folks, about the frustrations they have navigating Halifax and about the honest to God dangers they have navigating our streets here. So I'd love to hear from you what sort of piqued your interest in this problem, because we obviously hear about it a lot firsthand. But what got you interested in this as a problem that you thought you could really solve? What kind of brought this to your attention to begin with?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the core belief behind the project, and it's pretty simple that accessibility is a human right, and full participation in our community starts with the fundamental ability to move freely and independently. Now, for me, accessibility was never something that was abstract. I mean, I myself am able-bodied, but I have some invisible disabilities, I guess you would say, in terms of like mental health. But sort of beyond that, it was a defining reality for my family. So my passion for the work kind of stems from two generations of direct experience. So my grandmother, she dedicated many, many years and still to this day to fostering individuals with disabilities. Meaning her home was always had folks with diverse abilities in it. And then my great grandfather, a Canadian veteran, he contracted polio early in his life and lost his mobility. So those two key experiences for me kind of paved the way to how I see and view the environment around me and just the world in general. So yeah, like seeing them up close kind of gave me that conviction that everyone deserves the dignity of independent movement. And then I knew that I was someone who could create a solution, and we haven't looked back. Now, as far as like identifying reachability, I guess, as someone we want to work with, we did some initial research on a lot of nonprofits within Halifax and I mean greater province wide. And reachability's sort of mantra of nothing for us without us is definitely something that Trek IQ has adopted. Our values are really, really closely aligned, and it was just a great fit.
I love the term the dignity of independent movement. That's something I'd like to hear from both KJ and Tara. From what I hear from our clients, that term does not sum up the current situation of trying to navigate Halifax. I'd love to hear both of your thoughts on it. We'll start with KJ and then move to Tara because I'm addicted to alphabetical order mentally. Sorry, that's just how we roll. I'll try to switch it up on you eventually here. But KJ, the dignity of independent movement, does that sum up your ability to navigate our streets, or what is the situation like for you personally navigating Halifax?
Is my audio still unmuted?
We can hear you just fine. Yep.
Okay, perfect. So for me, I am completely blind, use a white cane. I'm also a walker user. So I have accessibility needs in different ways. My biggest thing is my routes need to be consistent, and when there are variables such as construction that come in my way, it very much is impacts the length of time that it takes me to get somewhere. Also, the level of hazardous like impact as well. Tara, I'm going to pass it to you.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'll similarly just give a little bit of context of my visual level. I'm low vision, so I have some functional vision. I'm deem myself a situational white cane user, which means I always have my white cane with me, but I don't always use it. It really depends on the situation. Um, and I guess and factors like how busy an environment is, how familiar I am with it, and the weather conditions. So I rarely use my white cane walking my dog around the neighborhood, but I always use it walking down Spring Garden Road. Um, for me, traveling in Halifax is similar to KJ. It's a lot of consistent routes. And I think you'd find that for a lot of people in our community. Consistency is key because it's just really easy to rely on one thing. And not just our community, people in general. I mean, you probably drive the same way to work every day because it's familiar and you know what to expect. When there's a disruption, it impacts, increases likelihood of injury, but it also impacts mentally. That sort of gymnastics that you have to do to navigate around, to budget in the extra time that you maybe weren't planning on. So that stress of, am I going to make it to the school to pick up my kid in time now that I have to reroute uh, or make it to my medical appointment? So all those things add a layer of sort of mental anxiety or stress too, which really impacts dignity. And then that desire and that willingness to go out and venture out again. If you keep encountering barriers, it can really take a toll. I'm fortunate to have some really good navigational skills that I gained as a kid, but I know that not everyone in our community has that. So I'm really happy to be here and be present and shine some light on some of the challenges that are faced.
Tara, I'm really curious, is there any way to sort of anticipate these kind of changes and roadblocks as they happen now? I'm thinking as a driver, Halifax can be a nightmare to get around anyway, car or walking. But I'll listen to CBC, I'll check my traffic apps, I'll check a few different sources just to make sure that, one of the bridges hasn't spontaneously combusted in the last 5 minutes. But if you're talking about navigating, especially on foot and with low vision or no vision, is there anything you currently can check in advance to find out if there's any sort of construction roadblocks, or are you really relying on sort of word of mouth in the community right now when you're planning out your routes if you're going somewhere out of your norm?
There's nothing that I've come across, and even word of mouth. I mean, the routes that I travel might be very distinctly different than KJ, and I don't have a giant group text. Anybody notice if there's any, impact around Spring Garden because um, we all have busy lives. And think about your own lives. They're busy. You're running kids to sports. You're getting groceries. You're making medical appointments. You're trying to arrange some social time with friends. We have all those things happening in our lives too. But then there's that extra added layer of, okay, if I'm going to a new restaurant with a friend, I'm probably going to spend some time checking what are the bus routes, what's the sort of earlier bus that I need to take, what does the restaurant look like, so I can find it, sort of all those arranging details that add a layer to it, and sort of add time that eats up our time.
It's interesting you mentioned and it's obvious when I think about the kind of mental strain of having to deal with unexpected roadblocks. What we tend to hear about here at work is unfortunately the physical accidents that our clients have, where, we've had people literally trapped in the middle of an intersection because their usual route has been blocked and they cannot see the roadblock ahead of time. Avery, is this something you heard about at the focus group, the mental aspect of it, the strain of having to deal with these roadblocks and having to do all this extra planning? Because I admit I was stuck more on the physical dangers, but that is also just as big of an issue, the mental stress.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one reason why like the focus groups and the co-design of this platform with the community is something that's so core to the value that we bring. It's because we act on a lot of assumptions. So I mean, we created a list of assumptions. This is what we have saw, this is what we have heard from other people. But our assumptions are only as great as for me, you know what I mean? It works for me based on my assumptions, but it was really important to get into the community, and that's where the focus groups came in. So, um, like you mentioned at the beginning, Tara and KJ were two of the members, and they brought some very valuable insights into that mental piece. Because to your point, I was kind of more focused on the actual physical mobility issues that would come up. So having the focus groups and having these conversations with the community has brought so much more valuable to our value to our initial assumptions, something that we wouldn't have gotten without speaking with the community.
KJ and Tara, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the focus group, anything that may have surprised you, whether you thought the project is something that, can help you going forward as it is right now, or if there were things that you offered that you think is really going to change the kind of development path to make it more useful to the future end user. KJ, if we can start with you this time, what were your thoughts on the focus group, and was there anything that you took away that you were kind of excited for future assistance from this, or any positivity, or was there still room to grow? I'd love to hear your thoughts.
So yes, I very much enjoyed attending the focus group. Um, it was really nice because, as Tara explained, sometimes, yes, the blind and partially sighted community can be a small demographic, but we're so spread out over HRM, over Nova Scotia, that there's often a lot of times where there's isolation, and the fact that we may be having our routes disturbed or changed, or and it's impacting us, but there's no way to really, unless you've been a blind user trying to navigate the streets. There sometimes is a bit of a gap where people can empathize, but they don't really get it. The thing that I very much was looking forward to is that, like, for me, because I use both a walker and a white cane, the idea is that, like, Avery was having, like, if we veer off course, helping course correct. If there's some way that, like, we have kind of used technology in order to course correct, or if there's a way to identify that there are sidewalk closures. Because there are times where it's a nice concrete barrier that you can follow along until you get back on the right side. But then there's sometimes it's posted in the middle of the street, or there's just a little collapsible thing on the sidewalk itself. So it all depends. And it's all based on the fact that there's variations of different construction sites. So there might be different crews that are more commonly aware of, like, hazards for people who are blind and partially sighted, and there might be people that are not so aware. So this gave me a lot of hope because technology has helped me so much in regards to having access to these navigation tools, but also to just tools to help my everyday living. And the idea of having uh, another tool that can help with navigation and make my life easier is going to be so crucial and is so important.
It sounds like there's an element of spontaneity, perhaps, that's not as readily available right now that this might be able to help with to kind of change plans at a moment's notice and meet up with friends without having to consider, okay, what's my usual route? How close is it to this? This might just make life a little more spontaneous in that way, which is lovely to hear. Tara, I'd love to hear your thoughts on the focus group and what your takeaways were from it, and also from both of you what you had to add, because I know Avery is going to tell us a bunch of things he took away that most of them probably came from you folks, and Evan will let us know on a couple people's behalf who were at the focus group but were not here today. But yeah, Tara, I'd love to hear what your takeaways were.
I think, echoing KJ, we are a community that's spread out. You don't often, it's more norm that you're the only one in your family. I thankfully, not thankfully, but my brother has the same condition as me. So we can sort of share some similar stories, but oftentimes you don't get that same camaraderie of being in a room where everybody sort of just gets it from the starting point, and you can share stories and have that empathy, which is really valuable. But I think for me, one of the really exciting things is sort of Avery's openness and willingness to first listen to the community and bring forward those ideas and really work as a starting point. But also the idea that this isn't going to be, okay, we're going to develop this in a year's time, throw it up on the thing, and other than adding tech glitches, updates, that's it. That it's really going to try and incorporate feedback and go deeper as technology advances, as understanding develops. There always has to be a starting point, but recognizing that that starting point doesn't have to be the end point of an app is really valuable. I think one of the things that we talked about in the focus group wasn't even necessarily related directly to the sort of navigation piece of the world, but the navigation piece of the app, and how, as someone with low vision, do I use an iPhone? Sort of the integrated use of voiceover, smart invert, inverted colors, Zoom, those sort of things, and how could that impact the functionality of an app if those features aren't fully integrated or fully usable on the app? So just even that piece, I think, is really key and important for app development to make sure that it works and plays well with all those other accessibility features that people often use on a smartphone, because an app, if you can't use it or you can only use 90% of it, isn't really going to bring that sort of functionality to the table. So I think just Avery's really sort of openness and eagerness to hear and engage with the community, to me, it was really a highlight.
Well, Avery, while we're singing your praises here, I will say one of the things that made me happiest right out of the gate was when you initially said, when we talked way back, when you did quote us, and what something we say far too often is nothing about us without us. We talk a lot about reachability having access to experts. And when we talk about those experts, we mean people like KJ and Tara who have lived experience and can tell you what it's really like on the ground. So Avery, I presume that was part of your plan for coming in really early stages to make sure that the app wasn't just going to be useful in helping people get around, but like Tara said, it would be fully accessible. It would be designed in a way that it was as usable to as many people as possible right out of the gate.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, right out of the gate, we knew that a one size fits all solution is just simply not going to work, and that's unfortunately kind of what we're seeing on the market right now. So, one of the questions that we kind of circled around at the focus group was, what apps are folks currently using, and then let's identify the gaps in those apps. And unfortunately, every single one of the apps that folks are using have some sort of gap where you have to switch to a different one to get this feature. You have to switch to a different one to get this feature, and it's all fragmented. And it's honestly a disaster, and it's not right. We live in a world where we're investing in smart cities and we're investing in all this new infrastructure. Um, but we're unfortunately leaving out folks that it really impacts along the way. So we made it our mission first and foremost. Like I said, like at the beginning, you make a list of assumptions and you kind of prototype around that. And then I think like our very first call, I showed you like a very rough version
Mhm.
of V1, our prototype. And I mean, we've continued to iterate based on feedback from the focus group, from speaking with advocates. This isn't really a space where we leverage feedback from like big tech bros or anything like that because I mean that side is great, but ultimately we need to provide value to our end users for it to be something that I feel really great about doing.
We've talked a lot about the development of smart cities and that sort of approach that, the digital solutions are supposed to save us all. But then, like we talked about on this exact panel last year, we looked at so many things like in new buildings where you have intercom systems that are completely flat screen, you have elevators that are completely flat screen with no voiceover included whatsoever. So to have someone come at me with hey, I have a technological solution, but I want to do it right from minute one, we were very, very excited to hear about that. Now, Evan, you very kindly facilitated the focus group when I had to flee the coop on all of these kind people at the last moment. What sort of feedback did you hear from the folks who aren't able to join us today? Was there anything that you took away that you'd like to add in as well?
I really think probably the primary concern really would be like what would this bring that is different from what's already available in the market, and making sure that again, yeah, that that future planning and adaptability and that mind for expansion, and that this initial release is not the end game, and how can we continue to adapt to provide those needs, and that that flexibility that is like required for such a very basic needs from the users, and wondering what the value might be in that if it didn't bring that essentially, and then like really targeting that as a means to bring concrete data and competition into the industry, and have something to actually show to the government to prove like with stakeholders that this is a need, and to have verifiable information to back that up. And I think really the core sort of mindset of Trek.iQ and its adaptability as a platform for its users, and the ability for that the sort of like current relevant information to be updated regularly is I think like a great way to address that concern.
Mm. And I was going to say, Avery, if you can speak to that, I think what I've taken away is what's different from the start of this is really that it is to rely on user feedback and also information from stakeholders like the city as well to make sure that these, roadblocks or changes in usual routes are reflected to the end users right away. Is that the primary difference you would say with the approach that you're taking?
Yes and no. So there is like a crowdsourced piece to it. There's some iterations. We're looking at partnering with businesses to help increase the accessibility within those spaces to and from from point A to point B. So we're the crowdsource piece is going to be really important in just keeping things up to date. But what we're seeing in the market right now is that crowdsourced data is becoming pretty stale pretty quickly because of the rapid development in within cities. So let's look at Halifax, for example. One sidewalk that's open today, it will be closed tomorrow. Let's be real. So the data goes stale pretty quickly. So when we shift the onus onto the the institutions, I guess, that are providing services for the community, we see that the data becomes much more accurate, but also keeps them accountable to making their space more accessible day in and day out. So yeah, to answer your question, it's kind of twofold. The crowdsourced piece is really important, but the B2B accountability is what's going to drive the accuracy.
Mm. Now, have you had any feedback from, I mean, the city would be our biggest stakeholder here when it comes to getting this sort of information to the end users. Have you had any feedback from the city yet on what their sort of willingness to engage with a project like this will be?
Yeah, so regarding the city, like we haven't officially partnered or we haven't found like the right channel, I guess, to connect with them yet. So I mean, I guess I'll take this opportunity to a Nova Scotia audience. If you're part of the government, go to my website and book a call with me. I'd love to hear from you. www.trek.iq.ca. But yeah, we haven't exactly made that partnership yet. But that would be a very crucial partnership for us to make. Um, on that vein, though, we've had a lot of conversations with businesses across the province and then into some Atlantic Canadian provinces, and the value that they see in a platform like this has been validated. So yeah, I guess it's good and validated feedback coming from the B2B side, but we haven't made the right connections yet on the government side.
Well, small self plug. We're going to have a city councilor on our podcast right after your episode that we're recording this Friday. Check it out, reachability.org/media. So yeah, we'll put in a good plug for you. Um, KJ and Tara, I'm curious from both of you, what is engagement with the city like right now? Because from what I hear from our clients, it doesn't sound great, but I mean, this is me speaking on their behalf, and we just talked about how we don't want to do that around here. We want to talk to the experts. So KJ and Tara, and I'll start with Tara this time to get away from my alphabetical addiction here. But what is engagement like from the city in terms of getting word out about potential hazards and changes to navigation routes for people with disabilities at the moment, at least in your opinion?
Um, well, I think for me, I do sign up for, or I have signed up for the FX alerts, but typically um, it focuses on driving routes. So if there's a road
Mm,
closure due to a water main break or accident or something like that, you sort of get an alert about that. But I don't, to my recollection, I've never received an alert about a sidewalk closure. Um, there's no way that I know of that I can sort of put in even these are key routes that I take,
mm,
um, or or sort of this is an area that I'm in. Can I be notified of any closures in that sort of radius? Because I understand the sort of laboriousness of everybody putting in this specific sidewalks they're rating, but there's no way to even drop a pin and say these are these, this is inform me of a 20 meter, 50 meter, whatever, 3 kilometer sidewalk closures in this pin area. There's nothing that I've come across that allows me to sort of know that.
mm,
And for me, that would be the most helpful, or even to be able to sort of drop that pin and have that come up on any platform, before I go to my doctor's office. Can I check that out and see if there's any closures in that area? Navigating to a website and reading through a list is just going to add probably half an hour ahead
mhm,
and make me more likely to be late for my appointment. And I guess it goes back to that mental gymnastics.
mhm,
Sometimes you get used to not being able to find the information that you just don't even, you stop actually going and looking for it because
mhm.
it eats up way more of your time and there's zero sort of benefit coming out of it. So uh, right now, I don't see anything. If someone else is aware of it, I'd love to be informed, but I guess that would also answer the communication is poor if there is something out there that exists and it hasn't been gotten out to the community. I'll pass it over to
It's
KJ.
always, oh, sorry. Yeah,
Sorry.
KJ,
Oh, go ahead.
absolutely. And oh no, I'm just going to give my angry commentary about the state of affairs here in just a moment. So I'll let KJ take us potentially somewhere positive or realistic first. But KJ, I'd love to hear your thoughts first.
Sorry, I'm gonna go realistic. I've not heard of any communication in regards to sidewalk closures as well. The biggest thing that I find with navigation as well is that if there is construction or sidewalk closures, making sure that the ground around it is still level. I
Mm,
have noticed that like when there is construction or uh, reasons for sidewalks to be closed, that there could be random big rocks and like mounds of dirt or just different things that you typically ordinarily wouldn't be going through. Because there's not always, like, sometimes during the day there are construction people there. That's awesome, but during the night there's no one really there unless I'm going out with somebody, a family friend or whatever. Um, there to kind of give you guidance. I've also not heard of any like communications about like sidewalk closures or construction things like that that would impact pedestrians' commute. But again, it might be out there. I just have not heard about it. But I absolutely completely agree with Tara in the fact that I try and look for as much information as I can. But as she also reiterated, um, life gets busy. And yeah.
It sounds like there's kind of there's a mental load being put on people with disabilities living in this city currently that's not being placed on people who can navigate without having to do that advanced planning. It always surprises me that in a province with the highest rate of persons with disabilities in Canada and in a city with, I would argue, some of the highest rates of sidewalk closures with all the construction going on, that we have yet to really publicize that information anywhere or find a way to make it useful for people who need that assistance in navigating. Um, well, you've been researching around, Avery. Is Halifax particularly problematic that you've noticed, or is every city facing the same problem and we're just griping louder because we're Maritimers and we love to complain for our, regional sport?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say so. I originally come from Fredericton, New Brunswick, and I mean a town of 50,000-ish people. And even in a town that small, these issues happen. I mean, when I moved to Halifax, things were a lot more amplified, because of the larger city. Um, so I think with that, it happens just at some scale in every city. And again, it goes back to, in my opinion, the fact that folks with disabilities are left out of the conversation far too
Mm.
much. And that's, like I said, and I'll say it again, that's why it's our biggest value, it's our core value that this isn't built without the folks that need it. Because we see it in, I mean, we from conversations with you folks, like we've heard stories that just shouldn't happen, and it's because people aren't being consulted. It's be let's be like, so I'm very able-bodied, so I mean I'm sure that if I was in a situation, if I was a city planner, I could also make a decision that negatively affected folks with disabilities or diverse abilities, not because I'm trying to leave them out, but it's because I'm not looking through that lens. Not that that's okay. That's what we're trying to change, and that's where we need to start moving to.
Hmm. This is something that we obviously focus on here a lot, is just trying to get people to ask the questions to that end user. So no, I'm very glad that that's kind of where we started with this whole conversation with you. So we focused a lot on end users who are either partially sighted or fully blind. Avery, what other disabilities have you focused on really in the initial stages of this app? And I'm curious specifically because I know we talked a lot about physical disabilities. I'm wondering too if mental disabilities has been on your radar as well, as a person who has a lot of anxiety and gets overstimulated very easily. Sometimes when one of my usual routes is suddenly filled with an unexpected parade, I can be a very unhappy camper. So I'm wondering if that's something that's on your radar as well, and what sort of the full range of abilities and disabilities you've been looking at in your early stages here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where the IQ and Trek.iQ comes. Is that, I mean, we're taking a holistic approach. Now all of the speed we move is directly related to the access to the data that we have. So I mean, when we first started talking, the data that was available to me was all around, it was primarily around like accessible sidewalks, a lot of mobility, accessibility. Um, of course, we know that disabilities do not end at mobility disabilities. So we're taking a very holistic approach. So I really appreciated that Tara called out that our starting point is not our end point, and that's really the path that we're on. So initially, our prototype was built for mobility issues, mobility impairments. But as we've been iterating, we've been adding features such as uh, like quiet space, like to identify quiet spaces,
Mm.
track crowd density in at like a concert, for example. So you could make a data-driven decision. Okay, I'm gonna go get popcorn now because there's no one there. So little things like that we're kind of adding as we continue to iterate. But short and sweet, we're taking a holistic approach, and we're expecting to cover almost all of our bases. One thing that I said at the focus group to everyone is this is where we're starting. Is it going to be perfect? Not necessarily. But it's every iteration is the next step in the right direction.
Well, let's talk perfection for a second here. We might as well aim high. Talking to our future end users, in particular, Tara and KJ. Let's talk perfect world here for a second. Let's say that Avery continues down the road with this app and rolls it out. What would make this ideal for you as a end user? We'll start with KJ. What would be the biggest features that would make an immediate improvement in your life and your ability to navigate independently?
So from the technology standpoint, it's just having things organized in a way that is accessible. Um, for example, for somebody, for example, like Tara, it might be good to have like high contrast things, which I think would be helpful for a lot of people as well. But I know, for example, when transit routes are redirected or canceled, for example, if they gray out the route, you see, my phone doesn't tell me when the route is grayed out. So I have no way to know. So just communicating the visual cues in a way that's organized, but also succinct enough that it can not interfere with the information that I'm looking for.
Mhm. Tara, what about yourself?
I think for me, it would be that ability to drop a pin in sort of to save pins in high frequency locations, whether that's my drugstore or my son's school. Um, that then I would receive notifications within a certain radius, which would be something that I could opt in for. So it's not something that everyone would receive, but I can receive notifications saying that there's a sidewalk closure. So I don't have to check every single time before I go pick him up. And I don't have to spend that time doing that. And I can spend it getting laundry or supper or whatever else going on. And then the ability to go in and sort of drop a pin for sort of new locations if I'm going to my one-offs and be told, is there a closure or a reroute that needs to happen, then I can plan that ahead of time, and sort of just prepare myself and know what I need to do when I need to cross the road. So I'm not walking 3 minutes down and hitting the sidewalk closed sign and having to backtrack and reroute that way.
Hmm. Avery, is this something that you've considered in the development phase? Is this sort of neighborhood kind of pinned location, frequent spot sort of approach?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, our first prototype had it mapped out like we had every accessible location that was like crowdsourced through a bunch of different platforms showing on the map, and you could filter for like restaurants and like barbers, just so on and so forth. We moved away from that like that initial like user experience or like UI, but it's something that we've implemented sort of in the back end, so you are able to kind of pin a geological area that you frequent or that you want to get alerts on. And then you can within the settings, like you can choose like what notifications you get for what barriers, so on and so forth.
I love the idea of getting notifications, particularly for my sort of neighborhood area, as somebody who gets the very loud alerts on my phone when there's someone breaking the law in Outer Cape Breton. I get a little frustrated that we kind of push these alerts to everyone. So yeah, being able to hyper focus it and make it very individualized, that sounds lovely to me, to be honest with you. Evan, you were, again, as I said, very kindly facilitating the focus group. Were there any sort of perfect world pie in the sky end game wishes and dreams that you heard from the folks at the focus group who aren't here today that you can share with us?
Yeah, I would say definitely that sort of frequency of update and the ability to have it targeted to your specific needs, again, I think would be a great way, again, echo what Tara said about reducing some of that mental load to make it be a little less taxing on your day-to-day sort of like travels to really reduce that anxiety. Also, I think ideally, if we could get buy-in from things like these sort of different mobility companies, the disruptors, like I'm thinking namely the scooters and bikes, I've noticed have become a very significant obstacle and hazard for accessibility throughout the city for as much as they provide. There is no real good tracking information for any of that stuff, and they tend to just get left willy-nilly by their users. And a lot of times, I've seen those, for instance, blocking specific pavement, like sidewalk easements that are designated for transit use. And if anyone has, for instance, like any kind of visual disability, and there is now potentially a large electric bike blocking your path out of the the bus, and you have no way of knowing that without someone there to alert you to it, or potentially, ideally, an app to have that sort of thing flagged.
It's interesting to me that you mentioned those electric bikes because that's something we've heard a lot about from our clients here about them being left in the middle of sidewalks, being left in, but in front of usually where the back door of a bus opens. They're kind of right there. Because Avery, when you mentioned talking about B2B working with businesses to get this sort of information to the app, I was thinking something we like to remind businesses of a lot of the time is that people with disabilities spend money. So selfishly, why don't you try to make it easier for people to get to your business? But also, if you're a company, I can't imagine that it's been an easy rollout for this rental bike company because the dent to their reputation from all of the word of mouth about these obstacles must be hitting them pretty hard. If I was working for a company like that, I would really want to be pairing with an app like this because they can then find out where they're causing a problem inadvertently, I'm sure, but where they're part of the problem and can be part of the solution by playing ball here. So if you're listening out there as a private business and wondering what's in this for you, how about reputation control? But also, I always hate to bring it back to money, but yeah, people with disabilities work and spend that money that they earn as well. So it's just self-serving for businesses to kind of play ball here. We just got a comment in the Q&As here from Tammy Sampson. Thank you, Tammy. It says, I use a wheelchair and I find it frustrating that delivery trucks park on Barrington Street sidewalks. Yeah, we hear this one a lot. I'm not sure how the app can help with that sort of thing. Avery, if you have a solution in mind, but I think that takes us back to a little bit more engagement from the city, some more enforcement from the city. Tara and KJ, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like enforcement of things like not parking on sidewalks and in front of accessible spaces is a bigger issue in the city than I would like it to be. Is that Avery, is there anything we can do to help with those sort of things with your app? Or is that too short term with somebody
Yeah,
causing an obstacle?
that one's a little tricky just in the sense where it's like private individuals. But if like from the business side, like we any business that we would work with, our expectation is that they're acting in the best interest of every citizen in the city that they operate in. And I mean, I as a founder and as a CEO, like I'm not tunnel visioned enough to accept businesses letting their employees operate in a way like that. So in short, I ha would have no problem kicking someone out of a partnership or whatever for not acting in the best interest of the folks that they're supposed to be serving. So like let's say I was working with a company and they were doing exactly what this question was saying. They're parking in loading zones, or they're blocking accessible parking. I would have no issue holding that business to account as far as I'm concerned. Now it does go back to the city though, unfortunately. Like it's I mean, I could only do so much. The city would have to really be the one to enforce that. But from like a reputation perspective, like if there was someone that were really ingrained in the platform and then they were asked to leave, I could see how that could be a deterrent for a business.
It's a good promotional opportunity for businesses too. If they're partnering with you and you have their nice logo on your app as it rolls out, that's a pretty good indicator to people where this company's priorities lie. I'd also recommend everybody too. We talk about this a lot, and I'm just going to take a quick sidebar here in relation to this question that was asked about the business vehicle parking on the sidewalks. Call the business. If you see a delivery truck that has the logo and the name and the phone number of the company on the truck, please call. People, honestly, we find a lot of the time they're not acting out of malice. They're just acting out of genuine ignorance. They hadn't considered that that might actually be a problem. And sometimes we've heard of people being genuinely horrified that they've been causing inaccessible problems here. So yeah, let them know. If they're not playing ball, always call the city, call 311. They're not always as helpful as we would like, but sometimes they will get it taken care of in a timely manner and actually let you know when it's been taken care of too. I'd like to leave off with KJ and Tara. Is there anything that we have not addressed when it comes to navigating safely in Halifax that could either be helped by technology or that we need to look somewhere else for assistance here? KJ, we'll start with you. Is there anything we've missed? Anything you think is really dire to be addressed in the city when it comes to navigating accessibly?
So I would just say about um, in regards to like the seasonal issues that we face, whether it be snow removal or if there are like hazards, for example, of like I know of a person who is visually impaired who broke her leg slipping on wet leaves. So just things like or branches that have blown off from a storm that are left in the middle of the sidewalk. If there is a way that this app could incorporate like some way of knowing like visibility, is the sidewalk accessible, and how do we make those more accessible? And I know that there's been conversations that we've had with the city in order to make snow removal a priority.
Tara, what about yourself?
Yeah, I think, I can't see who's the audience here, so I can't sort of know for sure if this will land properly. But I think for me, the one thing, um, technology apps, they're all great, but they're only as good as the information that we have. Same with 311. And it's not always as easy or as possible to call in for something. And I think we're part of a community. We're part of a, blind low vision community, but we are also part of the larger Halifax community. And so my call out would be to those who aren't low vision, who aren't living with disabilities. I know your lives are busy too, but if you are walking and you see a branch, I'll use that one, um, move it to the side and call the city to come clean it up. Don't just navigate around it, because it might be really easy for you to navigate around that obstacle, but for the next person in a wheelchair or with a white cane or with a walker, it might not be as easy to navigate around. If you don't see an accessible pedestrian signal, like the little thing that makes the beeping sound, if you don't see the snow cleared right to that pole, call 311 and let them know, because your actions may actually prevent a barrier from being there when someone with a disability walks up to that. And you may never know, but it's an opportunity for you to be an ally. So I guess I would just, to those who aren't living with disabilities, um, hopefully some of the information here has given you an awareness, and just to look for the opportunities to be allies And they're not always big, huge gestures. Sometimes it's just little things. And it does make a difference to our journey, to our mental load, um, to our day. So I think that that would be the thing because it makes a difference.
Yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, Tara. We got a picture from, I'm sure folks on the panel know her because she's a hoot, but Milena Kazanevich just sent us a photo in the other day that someone had taken for her, and she's standing directly in front of a sidewalk closed sign that is posted on a pole directly at face height, where she had almost crashed into it. And the title on the photo, as we posted it, was "If you can see something, please say something." All about just being a good neighbor, keeping that change in perspective in mind. So just because something isn't a hazard for you doesn't mean it might not be a significant and serious danger to somebody else. Keep your eyes open, keep your mind open. And if you can report this stuff to 311, or if you can even deal with it quickly yourself, a lot of the times it's just as simple as had somebody moved those leaves off of the sidewalk, KJ, your friend might not have broken a limb for heaven's sake. So yeah, be a good neighbor, try to change your perspective. Avery's app isn't ready yet, so he can't solve all of our problems tomorrow. So in the short term, that's what we're going to do. Avery, I'll give you over the last word there since you're the developer here. What can we expect in the future from you, and where should people look and go online for more information about this as well?
Yeah, yeah. So first of all, thank you everyone, and thank you for Evan, Tara, and KJ for joining us. Really great session we had with them, and then thanks Blake for the invite. Yeah, sort of next steps is we're looking at further iteration. So we're looking for more conversations with folks in the community, with businesses, with hopefully the city in the next couple of months. Um, we are looking for partners in terms of like data. So like that's kind of what we're looking for from like the business side is how can we help you become more accessible, and then at the same time capture data at your business to either bring back to the city, or just build a database and help folks make more data-driven decisions. And then I guess on the other end of it is, if anyone wanted to be a part of it, then feel free to go to our website. Jeff threw it in the chat there, but it's www.trekiq.ca, or on Instagram at Trek.iQ with a little underscore. Feel free to connect. I'd love to have a chat with anyone who'd be willing to learn more, or willing to share their experience, their thoughts, anything. Like I said, I'm not looking for me telling folks what they need. I'm all about folks telling me what they need, and then I can make it happen. So that's where I'll leave that.
No, I really appreciate that, Avery. Thank you. And I'd want to just kind of add on to that. If you're out there in the world and you have an accessibility challenge you would like to see addressed, or if you're out there in the world and you have a potential solution to something you see as an accessibility challenge in your local community, write to us info@reachability.org, or give us a call 902-429-5878. We love bringing people with tons of firsthand, very useful experience together with people who have nifty ideas and tech skills and who can do things we couldn't even dream of coming up with as a solution. So, Avery, thank you very much. Evan, Tara, KJ, thank you so much. Is there anything you wanted to add before Jeff tells us all that we're running out of time here because we're getting very close? Does not look like it. All right. Jeff, thank you very much for inviting us back here again this year. It's been a real pleasure. I hope this has been informational and useful to folks. I'm feeling very optimistic about the future of navigation in Halifax, despite all of the absolute horror stories I hear on a weekly basis. So thank you again, everybody, for contributing to a potential solution here. We're very excited to see where this all goes in the future. Jeff, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks so much, Blake, Avery, and everyone for being here this morning to kick off the day with this wonderful and informative session. I really enjoy reachability coming back, and again, kind of focusing on digital solutions. I think there's so much potential here, and I really look forward to seeing how this project evolves. Just given that we are on a snowy Monday morning and knowing that Tara's day job is working at the CNIB, the Canadian National Institute for the Blind. Tara, I wonder if you'd take a second just to mention the
Oh,
campaign that the CNIB has around snow clearing at this time of year. Do you want to just plug that quickly before
I,
we sign off?
I will, but I will just correct you. I actually am not employed by the CNIB. I'm part of their Strategic Leadership Council, so I'm a senior volunteer, but I'm not an employee.
All right.
Um,
As valuable, as
I'm a
valuable.
stay-at-home mom, so I actually don't work outside the home. But starting, I guess today now, since we've got our official snowfall, CNIB, this will, I believe, will be our third year that we're running our Snow Way. That's SNOWAY campaign. And Snow Way is just a way to bring awareness to the importance of snow removal and good proper snow removal, which means ensuring that curb cuts are cleared out, bus stops are cleared out, that when bus stops get cleared out, they don't then cause mounds of snow along the sidewalk that impede the movement of travel, and that the posts that contain the APS, the accessible pedestrian signals, that snow removal is cleared right up to those and not piled up to them so people can access them without having to reach over. Because as KJ pointed out, not everybody who is low vision or blind who use those sort of is sometimes that coincides with other disabilities or mobility aids. So Snowway is just a way to ensure if you see improper snow removal, please call 311, let them know, and probably stay tuned because there may be some media. Snap a picture too, and you can post it to social media and tag hashtag Snowway.
Awesome. I love that we could squeeze a PSA in at the end of this great session. So thanks again, everybody that's tuned in today. The recording will be posted to the Commission's website within about 24 hours. So thank you all very much and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great week, Jeff.
Take care.
Thank